Facebook friends, Mary Ann here. Hope you are having a great day. Anyway, I wanted to take a moment to answer a question, or actually a series of questions that I keep being asked since the Women's March. And they come down to two things. One is, why were the Native American women in the front of the march? And what's the big deal with the big red handprint across someone's mouth that many of the Native American women, including myself, wore during the march? So I'm just going to educate everybody a little bit about what's going on. As of 2016, there were 5,712 Native American women missing or murdered, according to the FBI statistics. Actually, my correction, those are 5,716 Native American women that have been missing since 2016. Now, officially, the FBI says there are too many for them to keep count. That's literally the official FBI stance as to what the number is now in 2019. So anyway, this is unfortunately a crisis that's happening in our country, and it's due to several different things. One of the things is dealing with the Violence Against Women Act. I know I've shared some of this with you before, but I'm going to repeat this because many people just aren't getting what this means. Currently, if a rapist goes, let's take, for example, Taos. A lot of people like to ski there. There's a wonderful city named Taos, just very close to Santa Fe. And most of you know that it's named after Taos Pueblo, probably the oldest continually lived in condominium complex in the Americas. We're talking thousands of years, Taos Pueblo. Anyway, a lot of my friends in the area joke that they should have copyright the concept of the condominium complex since they came up with it first. But anyway, so Taos Pueblo was there for thousands of years, and eventually a city was built around it and went by the same name. So you have Taos Pueblo and Taos the city. Literally, you can walk from one into the other pretty seamlessly. Now, if an American citizen went, for example, into Taos Pueblo and they raped a woman, and say this was videotaped, say there are multiple witnesses, say there's DNA, say absolutely 100% could be proven this rapist raped a woman from that Pueblo there. Well, the problem is that currently in the United States, the laws are such that an American citizen cannot be put on trial in a court on a reservation land. So that means that the rapist could go there, be caught, have all the proof in the world, but never be held accountable by the court systems on that reservation. So then, of course, the next thing people would say is, well, then couldn't, for example, the city next door, the closest city, so say Taos, the city, said, okay, well, we could try them. Nope. Apparently, according to the laws, unless the crime has been done in that city, then they really can't be put on trial without going through a lot more rigmarole. So, you've heard people when they say, well, we need to move a case because there's bias. So I'm sure that there's some legal thing, but for the majority, it just doesn't happen. So what that means is that for a rapist, suddenly it becomes very attractive for them to go to a reservation to rape a woman because they know that there is no legal way that they're held accountable on the reservation in their courts, and they know that there's no way for them to be legally held accountable, in the nearest city court. So this means that it's kind of a free-for-all. And the Violence Against Women Act was being rewritten, essentially, and was being pushed to deal with the situation, to give two options. And they were, both turned down, unfortunately, by the GOP. What they were saying were, one, well, let us try it here on the reservation. Two, the Republicans said no because it would allow an American citizen to be put on trial by a sovereign nation other than the United States. So they said, fine, let us do it in the city next door. And they said no because of the technicality, the crime didn't occur in that city. So we see this happen again and again and again. So now you understand that situation. Now, every time there is a major oil pipeline or some kind of gas line or something, and it's located near reservations, what happen are things that are called man camps. And these are just where the employees of those companies set up camp and where they live for a time. And without pointing any fingers, the facts are that wherever one of these man camps is set up, Native American women turn up missing and murdered. So those are the facts. And that's why you have 5,712 women that have been missing since 2016. And that's why now, as of 2020, there are too many for the FBI to keep track of. What that means for us here in Dallas is something very important, because Dallas, unfortunately, is the #1 place where people are sold. We're the place where the Super Bowl was created, the whole concept. And doing the Super Bowl is the #1 place and time of year when the most people, women and children especially, but yes, young men as well, are sex trafficked, literally auctioned off for sale. And that occurs doing the Super Bowl, almost in tangent with a lot of things going on, events happening doing that. So that means that many of these women and young teenage girls who are kidnapped to be sold end up coming through Dallas to be sold here. So that's why it made a whole lot of sense, and I think was very, very touching for the two people, Victoria Neve and Retta Bowers, that said, you know what, let's let the Native American women lead the Women's March. And that's why those of you saw the women wearing all red, carrying the banner that said Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women. And that's why you saw many of them wearing these big handprints. And my friend Gigi, she's an incredible makeup artist. She could have painted very easily with her eyes closed a perfect handprint on everyone's face. But I think what she did was so powerful, because she said she wanted people to understand the feeling of being silenced, so that when they marched, they felt the need and here to go and lift their voice and to really project a demand to be heard. And so instead of painting a perfect hand, she dipped her hand in the red paint and did this. And she held it for a very long time, so that all of us started feeling the feeling, oh my God, I really am being silenced. And then when she lifted it, it was right before the march, so we felt enthused to really stand up for those women who have no voice. I was talking with a friend of mine named Michelle Bedelia and my friend Yolanda, and they were telling me, for example, on the campus of Texas Instruments, there is a place where you have to have a card for the nearby hospital or be a Texas Instruments employee. And if you put show proof of who you are working for, that you are able to get into one of these places and have sex with a sex trafficked woman. And apparently, if you belong to a nonprofit that can be verified as doing work that would have anything to do with why you need to be aware of these kind of issues, you can actually take a bus and take a circle around Dallas and see that location and various others and see what's really happening in our city along these lines. I have another friend of mine, I won't say her name because I don't necessarily have the permission to share this story, but where she is, she sees people set up a huge modeling call, and they'll put it in newspapers. Model call, model search. And of course, all these young 20-something girls come with stars in their eyes, wanting to, go out after a modeling career. And the people say, well, we need an athletic woman to do the kind of things we want. So we're going to ask you to run around the building twice and come back in. We'll take your vitals and see how you are. So the girls run around the building twice to come in, understandably kind of worn out. And they say, okay, come in here and we'll take your vitals. And now their bodies are kind of tired. They're brought into a room and never seen again. And police apparently put this place out of business, take it down, and it pops right back up within another few weeks. So this is the point. Same thing on Texas Instruments. They come in, they read, they tear it down, and it pops up again. The point is that unfortunately our city is so comfortable with sex trafficking. We don't even really look at, and no one wants to talk about the tie-in with sex trafficking and the Super Bowl, or the tie-in with sex trafficking and car racing. All these different sports, the sex trafficking is occurring alongside them. And people don't look at the buyers. They don't want to say, who's paying for this? Someone with a lot of money has to be the one buying a sex slave, essentially. So anyway, these things are really important. And when you understand, again, a woman with a red handprint on her face is basically speaking up for a silenced woman who is missing and currently being sex trafficked somewhere in the world. And if you see the women who are Native American women leading a women's march, it's because people are saying, let their voice be heard. They were the first women of this land, and they deserve to be paid attention to. So these are the things that, for those of you that are asking, what's the deal? This is the deal. The Violence Against Women Act, not only, and I think it should be very clear, not only did the GOP say they didn't want it to cover Native American women, but they also fought against women who are illegal immigrants, lesbian women, bisexual women, because the idea is the laws shouldn't protect these women. And I think that's wrong. We shouldn't be looking at the validity of a woman. Is she worth protecting? We should instead be saying every woman is worth protecting. And it's not about the value or perception you have about that woman. It's about whether or not the man or woman, whoever's the predator, is simply not allowed to commit a violent act against a woman. And that should be something that should be forever ingrained in the law. It should be something that we don't have to vote on every single year. And again, it should not be about, as it comes down to every single year. Last year it didn't get passed because they kept arguing against, well, take out the lesbians, take out the Native Americans and the bi women and trans women, and we'll pass it. And I kudos to the people that fought for it and said, no, all women need to be protected under the Violence Against Women Act. As a city that had, last year, we had a serial killer going around killing Black trans women. I think that's something that we as a city need to take on upon ourselves and say, again, all women, regardless of sexual orientation, race, culture, et cetera, should be protected under the Violence Against Women Act. And not only that, sadly, the Native Americans are the ones who are searching for people. So many of these women, again, the FBI has said there are too many to keep track of. I mean, that's basically what's happened. So I'm not going to say there's no one at the FBI working on it, but they're not being given the resources to find these women. So it's really left up to the Native American community to find them. And for those of you that are wondering, yes, people that are brown skin, dark hair are considered exotic in places like Russia. So that's why they're often looked for. The number one place for kidnapping of people in the nation is unfortunately in Albuquerque. Again, a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Native American women. But if you take a look and you stay abreast of everything, you'll see, for example, right now, a woman that's been missing in Dallas, the Dallas area. She's a mixture of Southeastern Asian and Caucasian, but she has that same look. And so you can understand why these women are being basically kidnapped and bought and sold. Meanwhile, what's exotic over here in our country are women from Russia. And so those women who are sex trafficked from Russia are sold quite often here in this city. So anyway, so that gives you an idea of what's happening in our city and in our country at large, and why these issues, such as the Violence Against Women Act, are so interconnected with things. For example, for these man camps to be built, they're being built exactly where all these pipeline crises are occurring right now. So when you look and talk about environmental concerns, we're also looking and talking about the violence against women concerns, because where all these man camps are being set up, it really is not a good formula for men living alone, that many of them kind of a pack mentality, knowing that there's no legal recourse if they were to commit a questionable or even outright violent act against a Native American woman. They know there'll be no accountability. This is setting things up for a crisis to continue. And this is continuing. So again, please understand that's why you saw the women who were leading that march wearing the red handprints over their mouths, and why the Native American women were invited to stand up for the missing and murdered Indigenous women of the Americas and the very front of the march. So I hope this answers some of your questions, and I really hope this encourages many of you to step out and speak up, because I've been very touched actually by a number of very conservative women who have approached me and asked me, what are you standing up for? What's the deal with the red hand? What's all this? And while we might disagree on a zillion different things, they may be very pro-Trump or whatever, they were appalled to understand a situation like this, because, we really need to be in a position where simply the violence against women is a concern that is across the aisle agreed upon as not a good thing, regardless if you're a Republican or Democrat, moderate, far left, far right, whatever. It really shouldn't be about our politics. It should simply be about the ethics and morality of our nation. So anyway, thanks to you. Thanks to all of you for asking. And thanks especially to my conservative friends who cared enough to step out of your comfort zones to say, explain this to me, and who are rightfully appalled at this situation being an ongoing one in our nation. So, if you are appalled by it, please do look. I'll put a link down there. You can support your local chapter of Missing and Indigenous Women. I think that there's going to be a push within that organization to try and get local people trained to help find women. Today, there was one woman that was found, thank God, here in Dallas that had been taken from Standing Rock and brought all the way down here. Ironically, again, a lot of these companies are not being held accountable for their man camps. Again, we have Energy Transfer Partners down here. We've got major oil companies all over Texas, gas companies. These companies should be on the forefront of trying to fight for the Violence Against Women Act and holding these man camps accountable and putting certain processes in place that would make it much harder for Native American women to be preyed upon wherever these camps are set up. They really should be taking a stance, and it shouldn't be something that is along political lines. It should just be something that's along human lines, just about being a decent and good human being. So again, hope that helps explain everything, and I look forward to seeing all of you soon. And many, many, many thanks to all of you who came out to the Women's March and who marched with all of us, because that meant the world to me and to every woman there. Thank you.